Hey guys, it's your boy Rumsey. Today I'm bringing you guys something a little special. Since the first video I posted showcasing the self-chopping tree farm, I've been working in secret to uncover the mysteries and specifics regarding the physics system in Valheim. After many trials and failed experiments, I believe I finally perfected the sauce and have something worth sharing with you guys. The concept is pretty much that of my first tree farm, but multiplied to the 1000th degree. It's not quite to the 1000th degree, but it's pretty insane. This is a showcase of my mega tree farm, where I'm able to consistently drop the majority of the trees with just a few clicks. The amount of trees on this farm is really insane. In total, there's around 10,900 trees planted on this mountainside. If you find yourself enjoying this video, I'd really appreciate showing some love on this video so I can continue making more time-saving builds in Valheim. However easy it might seem to plant 10,900 seeds on a mountainside, it's a little more complicated than that. In fact, these seeds are planted in the most ideal conditions in order to produce consistent results like this. Before we get into it, I'd like to take a second and quickly share some exciting news with you guys. I finally decided to launch my Patreon page, where viewers like you can show your love by supporting my videos directly. Amongst other tier benefits, I launched the Patreon-only Discord channel, where other like-minded people can get together and discuss the latest good in a safe and secure environment. If this is something you'd be interested in, I'd be super stoked if you'd take a moment and check it out. You'd be doing a real solid for me as well as my sanity. Before we get into the meat of the video, I'd like to go over some specifics.
I'll meet you at the bottom. There's still one more thing I must do before I go.
As stated before, there's almost 11,000 trees on this farm. I also cleared the entire mountainside of all interactables like twigs and stone. And lastly, I terraformed the entire mountainside to between 55 and 75 degrees. Let's not do the math on how many hours this took me. I've been working on these farms in my free time since shortly after release. I really enjoy building automated farms and sandbox games that can help ramp up your in-game production and save that precious time. However, this is not that. This is an unrealistic concept that was just to see how far you could actually take the simple automated tree farm. But the results are pretty stunning regardless. This farm can produce 220,000 wood with just a couple clicks on your player's part. But trust me when I say that I understand this farm is not realistic and probably not worthwhile in a normal playthrough. But it's still really cool to see how far you can actually take the concept. The steps I listed earlier cannot be understated. Even if you're building a small farm like this, it's really important to clear the area of all stumps, trees, ores, stones, and twigs. Failing to clean up the area beforehand can quite literally create a snag in your farm. That's because the logs get hung up on these items as they roll down the mountainside. 1 or 2 row twigs on your hillside is probably just fine. But the more snags you allow on your hillside, the more things your log has to roll over before it reaches another tree or the bottom of your farm. This can either slow the log's momentum or stop it altogether, and the momentum is the most important thing in this farm. So even if you intend to build this on a much smaller scale, I can't understate how important it is to clean up the area beforehand, as well as keep the slope of your mountain in mind. Sometimes in Valheim, an object in motion will stay in motion. This may be common knowledge by now, but for some people who aren't so sure, the spacing between the saplings is also very critical. As a rule of thumb, you should leave 1 floor tile between each sapling when you plant them. If you have a mass planning operation going on, it's probably better to give them a little extra space rather than too little space, especially if you're going for speed and efficiency. It's also worth noting that if you get the spacing wrong, it's no big deal anymore. You can simply attack it with your axe and destroy the sapling. As you can see, I'm not being too specific with the spacing. I'm just making sure to give them at least 2 meters or a floor tile in between each sapling. With this many trees, it's unrealistic to be super specific, so I'm simply running around and mindlessly placing them at what I think is 2 meters apart. I also recommend eating your highest stamina increasing foods, as well as maybe even bringing some stamina potions along, as the cultivator really chugs through your stamina bar. Once again, try not to be too specific, just be sure to at least give them 2 meters in between. Here we have a small time lapse of the bottom of the farm. As you can see on the left of the farm here, I have built a retaining wall of sorts with the raised ground tool. When building a smaller tree farm, the retaining walls are very crucial to the build. But on this farm, it's not as important. They're more of a visual marker for me to tell myself where I should stop planting seeds. Also, a big shout out to Andreas the Cat, who made a very good point in the comment section of my first video. Using the Elder Power, you can increase your wood cutting speed, which will definitely help for cleanup as well as getting the farm started initially. This can essentially cut your time in half if you're actually harvesting all the logs after you've dropped your trees. Thanks a ton for putting that in there, man. I really look forward to hearing back from you guys. Your guys' feedback on my videos means so much to me, and I really look forward to hearing back from all of you guys. In order to give you guys a true idea of the scale of this farm, I actually have to run my character from one side of the farm to the next. This is because the amount of trees I have on screen right now is actually throttling the render amount. I actually have to drive from one end of the farm to the next in a boat in order to show you guys the true scale of this farm, and even that doesn't do it justice. But I'm sure as you guys can imagine, 11,000 trees planted roughly 2 meters apart covers quite a large distance in the game world. The mountainside you're looking at was scouted specifically for this project. I tried many different variations of the farm with varying success. This is probably my magnum opus with the tree farm. Following the parameters I've already stated, you could potentially build this farm bigger. As long as the game spawned a large enough mountain, you could go larger. But we're limited by the render amount with the game anyways, and you'll see more of that in a moment. This is probably the largest I'm comfortable going with this, without burning up my graphics card completely. Each of the first saplings was planted one by one, by hand in a normal world, and I only worked under the cover of night. And somewhere along the way, my dwindling sanity inspired me to build somewhat of a log dispenser at the top. I call this the Kraken. And this is just going to push the avalanche a little further at the top to ensure there's no logs left behind. The log dispenser at the top is really just for fun, and it's not necessary whatsoever. I've reloaded this seed many times throughout the filming of this video, and it's always produced similar results whether I use the log dispenser or hit the trees manually. With all that good stuff aside, it's time to showcase what you guys really came here for. I present to you the largest tree farm ever made in Valheim. You'll have to excuse the frame drop, there was really nothing I could do with this. Even after optimizing my game and changing all my settings to the lowest setting, my game still throttled for frames. This is because, even before I started my avalanche, I was already teetering on the instance amount that the game allows. So obviously, as soon as the chain reaction started down the mountainside, the game had to work overtime to keep up with the action on screen. I know there's been some people who have experienced disappearing drops or items that will consolidate their amounts on top of one another. And I believe this is a good example of why this happens. In my experiences with this farm, when the game starts teetering around 22,000 instances, the dropped items on the mountainside would start consolidating their stacks with nearby items of the same type, seemingly to prevent throttling, loss of frames, or crashes altogether. And even though this can be frustrating in a normal setting, you have to commend the programmers for having the foresight to program a failsafe as extreme as this. However, I still had to speed up the clips in a few parts of the video, just to compensate for the loss of frames that I was experiencing. Once the momentum starts building and the avalanche takes over, you can see the trees actually are cascading back uphill and to the left and the right just as much as up and down. I noticed this happening on a smaller scale on the first farm, and this is kind of what motivated me to build it at this level. But I didn't intend to break the game. As mentioned before, I reloaded this farm multiple times throughout the filming of the video. This is because the avalanche happened so quickly that I was unable to get any good footage in the first take alone. However, it does show that if you build your farm around similar parameters, you can expect pretty much consistent results every time. It's also important to note that starting the chain reaction at different angles or different points at the top of your farm will produce varying results. Whether you're building a small farm or a large farm like this, if you take notice to how my walls are positioned on the outside of the farm, I make a funnel shape with the top of the farm being the skinniest portion of the farm and the bottom portion being the largest part. This helps to start a chain reaction and push it all the way down your mountainside. Even with the clip sped up, you can get an idea on how hard the game has to work to keep up with all this destruction. The game's capped out with the amount of instances it can currently load, so the lag is pretty heavy right now. Throughout the video, you'll notice a bunch of dust clouds appear where there seems to be nothing at all. Well, this is actually where there would be a tree, either a standing tree or a log that's fallen, but the game can't actually render it, so it produces the dust cloud instead. But what you are able to see here is the slope of my hillside. With the exception of the stumps from the trees, my hill is completely clear and smoothly terraformed. Trust me when I say that it's probably one of the most important steps in building a farm like this. The consistent results are really all thanks to the prior planning, the cleanup, and the slope of the hillside. So even if you'd like to build a smaller version of this, make sure you take the time to clean up beforehand and keep the slope of your hill in mind as well. As an added tip, to help get the reaction moving, you can prime some of the trees on your farm by hitting them once or twice with varying levels of axes to lower their HP. This farm is by no means time efficient. In a normal playthrough, you'd probably just be better off farming the wood normally, or at least not going to the extent that I have here in this video. I didn't actually create this farm with the goal in mind of retrieving a lot of wood, although it is possible. And that's really what I like to show in my videos, what is possible. I genuinely don't recommend trying to build one of these with time efficiency in mind. And I really don't believe anybody needs 220,000 wood. But it's cool to see that you can do it regardless. And who knows if this application has any use in the future of Valheim. I would recommend building a small scale wood farm like the one in my first video, or even just a smaller version of this. That's an actual good use of time. This is just overkill. Whether you build a small scale farm or you're crazy enough to build something of this scale, and you have any findings of your own to share, please leave them in the comment section. I love to improve on the builds I make in this game, and I'm always happy to hear what you guys have to say about them. Please don't be afraid to leave your feedback in the comment section. I really do appreciate it. Taking a quick look at the aftermath, I believe this farm really speaks for itself. Sure, it's not time efficient, but it's really neat that you can do this. Without a doubt, my favorite thing about a sandbox game is the endless potential for creativity and play. And it's through both creativity and play, paired with the communities within these games, where the best ideas are born. I've seen it happen within other game communities, and I'm certain Valheim is no different. I don't think many people will argue when I say that the last year has been a very tough time for many. And though it's beaten down on us in a multitude of ways, it's super sweet that we were blessed with an awesome world like Valheim to sink our teeth into and escape from the real world troubles for a while. Real quickly before I end the video, I'd like to go over how I go about planting the saplings on such a steep slope. The key to this is to work from the top down. First off, plant your saplings in a straight line across the mountainside. Then equip your hoe and allow your character to slide down the hill about 1 wall tile's height or 2 meters. When doing this with the level function on the hoe, you create a perfect slope foundation to continue planting your saplings parallel to one another. This is a super good method for terraforming in general, but it really shines on these tree farms, where it's almost necessary to create smooth and steep surfaces for maximum momentum. Just disregard all the debris on this mountainside. This is on the other side of my farm, but I figured this was worthwhile to show you guys in case you'd like to do it yourself. There are other ways of doing this to achieve similar results, but I believe this is the most time-effective way of doing it. If you made it this far, thank you so much. You guys are true legends. I really appreciate all your guys' support and feedback on these videos. And that's why I decided to launch a Patreon and create a Discord channel for this community. Trust me when I say I understand that this is not for everyone, but if you feel so inclined to back my videos directly, you'll receive exclusive access to my Patreon Discord, where other like-minded people can share and discuss the latest good. As well as my Discord channel, you'll also receive access to private streams and early access videos. I'd like to pull some potential game servers for us to all play on as well. Regardless if you're interested in the Patreon, If you happen to find this video entertaining, if you learned anything, or even if it inspired a build of your own, show this video some love so I can continue making these types of videos on a game we all love. I really am stoked and thankful for all you who've watched my content, and for all of you who've reached out with your feedback, corrective criticism, or love. It has pushed me to jump headfirst over a boundary I unknowingly set for myself with making these types of videos. I'm really stoked to be here and engaging with all of you. You guys have the sickest ideas, and I'm super pumped to be surrounded by so many like-minded people. I know it's only a matter of time before the contagious efficiency disorder takes over the rest of the world. So I believe it's a good opportunity for us to band together and revel in the sweet fruits of efficiency. Also, if you're interested in either longer burger baskets, colonial candle crafters, candles, or good recipes for brownies, I think there's some posted in my Discord. And yeah, all my Patreon proceeds will go directly to buy my dog's dog food, and I have to buy a bark box. Yeah. Your guys' support is really what motivates me to continue making these types of videos. For as long as I can remember, I've been playing games in a similar way to what I do on here with you guys. Min-maxing or building outside of the norm within games has always been my thing. But I've always kept my methods to myself for the most part. It's not because I didn't want to share them, but I just wasn't sure if anybody else cared to hear them. I guess that's why I'm so pumped that I've been introduced to all of you, who also share the same interests and ideas as myself. Building this community with all of you has without a doubt become one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of building, and I really do appreciate every one of you who take the time out of your day to show some love and support. And with that being said, this is your boy Rumsey, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.